Okay, Realty One Group agents, Tim is back. Here is page 5 of the residential purchase agreement. Top of page 5 is paragraph D, closing costs. In addition to the seller's expenses identified herein, seller will contribute blank dollars to buyer's lender's fees, and you have a choice here, including or excluding costs which seller must pay pursuant to loan programs, title and escrow, and or buyer's recurring and non-recurring closing fees that may include brokerage commissions not covered as part of the cooperation offered but not limited to. Different loan types, example FHA, VA conventional, have different appraisal and financing requirements which will affect parties' rights and costs under this agreement. So on this line here again where I have 0, you could put any number you want after you consult with your client. You could put $10,000. You could put $5,000. You could put 0, okay? It's not uncommon for for buyers to request the sellers to pay some of their closing costs. I don't recommend necessarily putting in a percentage. If you notice, there's a dollar sign at the end of this line. Some agents will go like this and put in 3%. That's not what goes there. If you notice, I can't even put in a percent sign, okay? But calculate, if you're going by 3%, if that's what the lender is recommending and that's what the buyer needs, calculate $400,000 property, 3% is $12,000. Here you'll put in $12,000 as your closing costs that you're requesting the seller to pay on your behalf for your buyer, okay? Just keep in mind, the downside to this is that the seller doesn't want to see this, right? The seller doesn't want to pay buyer's closing costs if they don't have to. So by putting that there, that will weaken your offer. So just keep that in mind, okay? So that's why I have 0. E, home protection plan. We also call that the home warranty. Buyer and seller acknowledge. Let me go backwards. If you do put a number in here, always check off including. Never check off excluding, okay? Including will cover all various expenses, various closing costs, title and escrow fees, plus potentially your buyer's agent commission if possible. But again, that's something you'll talk to the lender about, but you always check off including. All right, section E, page 5, home protection plan. Buyer and seller acknowledges that they have been made aware of a home protection plan that provides coverage to the buyer after close of escrow. Okay, now here you have a choice. Your buyer can waive it or your buyer requires it. So we recommend you put requires. A home protection plan with, put one of our vendors in there. We have 3. For this example, I put American Home Shield. And you have a choice. You want the seller to pay for it or do you want the buyer to pay for it? Now again, you represent the buyer. So we want you to we recommend you checking off seller. This is very common in Las Vegas on this paragraph for the buyer to require the home warranty and ask the seller to pay for it, okay? Seller will pay for the home protection plan at a price not to exceed $815. This is very important. I didn't just make up that number. That's the cost of the most expensive plan. I think it's called Shield Complete at American Home Shield. You need to know these numbers. Just don't throw in there 500 or 400 or 695. Find out which company you're using. In this case, it's American Home Shield, and I know to put in $815. If the seller could counter this and say, no, we're not paying $815, we'll give you $500, then your buyer can pay the difference to get the best plan American Home Shield has to offer, okay? Buyer will order the home protection plan. Neither buyer nor brokers make any representation as to the extent of coverage or deductibles of such plans, okay? Paragraph 10, transfer of title. Upon close of escrow, buyer shall tender to seller the agreed upon purchase price, and seller shall tender to buyer marketable title of the property free of all encumbrances other than 1, current real estate taxes, 2, covenants, conditions, and restrictions if there's an HOA, also known as the CC&Rs, and related restrictions, 3, zoning of master plan communities or public utility easements, and 4, obligations assumed and encumbrances, spit it out, Tim, accepted by the buyer prior to close of escrow. Buyer is advised property may be reassessed after close of escrow, which may result in a real property tax increase or decrease. Okay, very important. There's a chance that the property taxes will go up based on the new home value, because when these people bought it, they may have purchased it for $400. Now you're buying it for $800. So there's a chance that your new buyer's taxes on the property will go up. Number 11, common interest communities. We call that HOAs. If the property is subject to a CIC, Seller shall provide at seller's expense the CIC documents as required by NRS 116.4109, collectively the resale package. Seller shall request the resale package within 2 business days following acceptance and provide the same to the buyer within 1 business day of the seller's receipt thereof. This is very important. If you're the buyer, you want to stay in touch with the listing agent to see if they are indeed ordering the HOA resale package within the first couple of days of escrow being open. A lot of listing agents do not do that. They wait until further down the road, maybe a week or 10 days, then they order the package, but contractually they have to do it within 2 business days of acceptance. Okay, now these regulations are important. As you can see, they are bold. They're in bold print. Bold for a reason. Okay? Pursuant to NRS 116.4109, buyer may cancel this agreement without penalty until midnight of the 5th calendar day following the date of the receipt of the resale package. So, this is important, gang. All of these time frames start the day after your property is accepted by both parties. Okay? Both parties sign the RPA on June 16th. Everything, you open up escrow June 17th. That's when the clock starts, the day after acceptance. Same thing happens here. Your buyer gets the resale package on June 18th. They have 5 calendar days. That doesn't mean if Christmas is in there. That doesn't mean holidays are in there. Okay, it's 5 calendar days following the day of the receipt if they want to cancel. And usually a buyer only cancels if there's something in the resale package that doesn't fit into their lifestyle. Quick example, I had a client once. She had 4 dogs. Okay, we went into escrow. We got the resale package, and we read through the resale package, and we found out that the limit in the HOA was only 2 dogs. Unfortunately, she had to cancel because she had 4. So it's really important that you get this to your buyer, help them read it. They're going to sign a piece of paper that says they read it. Okay, and some of these HOA resale packages are hundreds and hundreds of pages. Okay, so if you know your buyer has 3 boats, 7 motorcycles, 5 cats, they have a llama, I don't know, they have 5 dogs, help them with the resale package so you don't get into the middle of escrow and then there's an issue. If the buyer does not receive the resale package within 15 calendar days following the date of acceptance, this agreement may be canceled in full by the buyer without penalty. This is important. Again, another way for your buyer to possibly cancel the transaction, that if you went into escrow June 2nd, by June 17th, your buyer should have the resale package. Okay? So that's why keeping track of these dates is so important. Notice of a cancellation shall be delivered pursuant to Section 25 of the RPA. The third bullet point, upon such written cancellation, buyer shall, let me go up a little bit, promptly receive a refund of the EMD. Both parties agree to execute any documents requested by the escrow holder to facilitate a refund. If written cancellation is not received within a specified period, the resale package will be deemed approved. Seller shall pay all outstanding CIC fines and or penalties at close of escrow. So this line right here is very important about canceling and getting the EMD back for your buyer. Escrow holder to facilitate a refund, okay, if written cancellation is not received within a specified period, meaning both parties have to sign a cancellation before escrow gives the money back to your buyer. Sometimes the seller doesn't want to sign the cancellation. Therefore, your buyer will not get the EMD back in a timely manner. Okay? When this occurs, myself or Wendy or one of the managers will talk to you about what happens when that situation arises. Okay? Okay, paragraph A, CIC-related expenses. Identify which party shall pay the costs noted below, either seller, buyer, 50/50, waived, or NA. All of these have drop-down menus, like I showed you earlier. For our illustration here, we want you as the buyer's agent to put seller in all of these boxes. CIC demand, final inspection fee, CIC capital contribution, and CIC transfer fee setup. We'll talk more about these in specific trainings. Also, you'll talk more about it with your escrow officers. Just so you know, all of these expenses, as of when I'm recording this, May of 2025, are about $800. Okay, so if your buyer says, well, Tim, what if they don't want to pay these? What if they counter me and they're going to ask me to pay for all these things? Let your buyer know it's about $800 so they don't get blindsided by it. Okay. Number 12, disclosures. Within 5 calendar days following the date of acceptance of this agreement, seller shall provide the following disclosures and or documents. Check applicable boxes. So you as the buyer's agent, You're going to check off what you expect within 5 days of the agreement being accepted. You're always checking off seller's real property disclosure, okay? Open range disclosure would only happen if you're typically buying something in northern Nevada, or where there's cattle, where there's horses, where there's, animals running around, okay? In my 17 years in Las Vegas, I've never requested an open range disclosure, okay? Construction defects claim, you could check that off if you think there was any issue with construction defects or lawsuits from the builder, but typically that's not checked off, but you can, okay? Lead-based paint, you're only checking that off if the property was built before 1978. If it's a very high-tech property, okay, brand new, couple of years old, has Bluetooth for everything, you might want to check off it's a smart home disclosure right here, okay? And if there's the property has solar, you want to check off solar panel addendum. Very important if there's solar, okay? Then again, at the bottom, each party acknowledges that he or she has read, understood, agrees to each and every provision on this page, unless a particular paragraph is otherwise modified by addendum or counteroffer. There's my client, Derek Jeter. He's going to initial. That's the address, and then the seller is going to initial, okay? All right, gang, thank you for listening. That was page 5. One more to go. See you back here shortly.